Here with your TNA wrap-up show for 6/14/2016. This was the Gold Rush edition of TNA Impact. This comes off the heels of Sunday's TNA Slammiversary show, pay-per-view. Pretty decent show tonight. You know, we had a lot of matchups. As you know, when they have the Gold Rush edition, that means 4 out of the 5 possible TNA championships are up for grabs tonight in tonight's episode. There were a lot of technical issues that really began the edition. It was supposed to be a live edition of TNA on Poptv, and for some reason, for the first 2 hours, there was technical issues. So really, I had a difficult time myself trying to watch it and get information, so I could give you guys my wrap-up thoughts and whatnot for the show. But for 2 hours, it just kept cutting in and out between commercials and coming out with, all types of commercials back to back to back, and then it would cut to the live feed, and it would cut back to commercials, and it was just very, very agitating trying to watch it. And that kind of says a bad thing about Poptv too, that they can't really. They try to do a live show, and they can't even get a live show going, because I was noticing something was wrong. I kept seeing these commercials, and TNA was supposed to come on, and I checked the guide, and it was still showing it was on there. But then I got on live TV. I noticed there was a what do you call it? Text message or something, a text message or something that was on there, and it was saying that, and then they cut live on Facebook, and they said that it was something, sorry for the inconvenience, there was technical difficulties and stuff, and so that's basically it, what happened. So, finally it got over with, and finally it came on. It was after 11 o'clock before it finally showed up. But it did say, however, we're going to show the whole thing, which is a good thing, because I felt robbed today to just give us a partial bit. They said, we'll show you from the very beginning, the duration of it, so you can see the whole thing. So, so finally we'll get right into the get right into the TNA wrap-up, the episode for the 14th of June. TNA begins off tonight. We see Lashley is standing in the middle of the ring. He has a suit on, everything, his shades on. He's got the World Championship, on his shoulder, and he states that how much better he is than anybody is in the business, and how he brags about how he defeated Kurt Angle, and he broke Galloway, because they had a hard-fought match, Galloway, and he said tonight that he was going to do the same to anybody else, but he said really there was nobody else left. And as he was talking, EC3's music hits, and then EC3 comes out. EC3, he's got his little suit on and everything, and he walks up there and he stands face to face with Bobby Lashley, and he kind of lets him know he's not going to back down from him, that he's the real deal, because EC3 defeated the Miracle Mike Bennett at the pay-per-view. So EC3 stands face to face with him, and he's there to challenge him for a title matchup. And Galloway's music hits, and all of a sudden you see Galloway standing at the top of the stage, and he looks tired. You could tell he had a physical matchup with Lashley. You could tell, is real. He just was kind of he was selling. He did a good job of selling that he was hurt. And just worn out from and beat up from his matchup against Lashley, because Lashley is a big man, a physical man. So he tells Lashley that he wants his rematch. He exercises his rematch clause tonight, and Lashley says that he was in no condition to give it to him tonight. And Galloway says and tells him, look, we're going to have it tonight, and we're going to have it in the main event. That's going to be the main event. So looks like we, at the beginning of the show, we already see a world title matchup rematch between the now champion Bobby Lashley against the former champion Drew Galloway. So that kind of sets the table for the very beginning of the matchup. We come back and we see that they show some stuff on Facebook between Jeff and Eli Drake, and Jeff challenges Eli Drake for the King of the Mountain championship. And it was a decent match. We see that Jeff, after that, those bumps and things he took at the pay-per-view, were really worn on him, which you would have kind of like to see him kind of stay out maybe a week or two and really sell the stuff, because that's what I always talk about. Selling is an important key issue with that. But we see it anyway. We see that it's Drake really uses his power. He goes right up to Jeff in the very beginning and takes it to Jeff, because Jeff looks weak and beat down from his matchup. Very physical matchup that he had against his brother Matt at the pay-per-view. And and he takes advantage of it, and he starts working over Jeff on the outside of the ring, by clotheslining him, doing a lot that he possibly can to literally break Jeff Hardy even more so than what he is. And he even showed where Jeff was down to a point where he almost got counted out during his matchup. And we see that he ends up basically making it back into the ring. And then we see Eli Drake, go back and forth with Jeff. Jeff makes his comeback. They kind of go back and forth, and we see that Jeff counters Eli Drake after his springboard into a power bomb, and then which he gets only a 2 count. And then we see that Drake counters when Jeff tries to hit a twist of fate on him, and he goes for a power bomb, which didn't quite look almost like a power bomb. You know how those almost botches happen for a near fall. And then Jeff ends up hitting the twist of fate, and he goes up to the top, and he hits the swanton on him. But then, right just as ref goes to count, Matt runs out and he bites the hand of the referee for a disqualification. Tell me how messed up that is to see Matt run out there and bite the hand of the referee to get a DQ. So you see, after a match, you're going to see you possibly see Jeff get the win and become the new King of the Mountain champion. But then you see Matt Hardy go out there and interfere in the matchup. So very sad to see that end up like that. So we see coming up, we see Matt Hart backstage. We come back and we see EC3, and he's talking to Drew Galloway about his matchup, against Lashley tonight. And Galloway just tells him, because EC3 sees how give out he is, how, he just looks physically beat down. And Galloway tells him, Galloway's a fighting guy. He says, I've got to fight for my title, and EC3 looks at him and jokes with him and tells him that he looks like hell because he just looks beat up. I mean, that was a physical matchup with Bobby Lashley. And so Galloway says, you know what? It's going to be my night. This is going to be my night. He kept a positive flow of it. He just sounded positive against it. And no matter what happened at pay-per-view, this was going to be his night. He was going to get his title back. He just felt it in his heart. He said that he's got to go forward. And he tells EC3, he said, look, you're going to get your title shot, but it's going to end up being against me. So we see the confidence that Galloway has in his matchup, even though his condition is kind of dreary at the time. He's kind of down, but he has this feeling that he's going to win it tonight. We come back and we see Jeff cutting a promo to Matt. Old brother Nero cutting a promo to Broken Matt. That's what he's, I guess, referred to now as Broken Matt. And what Jeff wants to really do is, through everything, he just wants to bury the hatchet. They're brothers. They've been through a lot. Matt's been through a lot. Jeff's been through a lot of injuries, a lot of things said. He just wants to bury the hatchet, and I can kind of understand that, because put this feud to rest. That's what the pay-per-view was supposed to be all about, and he wanted to end it, and Jeff mentions that, how powerful and stronger he is since he's been back. And, Broken Matt here will hear none of this. He declines his offer to bury the hatchet and says that he wants to end his brother Nero for his sins. So, wonderful dialogue there from Broken Matt to his brother Nero. So then we end up seeing the brothers running at each other, and they're going at it and brawling all over at the stage. And we see his wife, Matt's wife, Rebby, end up shooting Jeff with a fire extinguisher. Which when that does, it ends up giving Matt the upper hand, and Matt ends up causing Jeff to fall through a table, and he cuts a promo to Jeff and tells him that he wants a 6 sides of steel matchup for next week. So we see now that this feud is not over with. It's not dead. It's not going to be buried. It's going on for another week. So we'll see next week. It'll be a 6 sides of steel matchup. So another match for next. We see a match for next week's edition set up already. We see here. We see a next matchup here is for the X Division Championship. Those who don't know, we had a new X Division champion during the pay-per-view. Eddie Edwards of the Wolves ended up pulling it out and gaining and winning the X Division championship. So now we see that rematch happen. Like I said, it's the Gold Rush edition, so that title was up for grabs in tonight's edition of TNA. So we see that, but the only difference in this time is that Gregor Helms will be with him at ringside. Remember, at the pay-per-view, he was banned. He couldn't be nowhere near the ring. And so you see with this time happening, we see that he is now with Trevor Lee. So we'll see what happens with Trevor Lee in this matchup and what effect Helms will have on the matchup between Lee and the new champion, Eddie Edwards. So, Lee goes from the get-go. He goes early on, attacks Eddie Edwards, tries to get a quick pinfall right off the bat, and we see that Lee really kind of dominates this match early on, and he gets a lot of those quick pin attempts, trying to whatever he can to get the title back and do it as quick as he possibly can. And as we see the match goes on, he wears down on Eddie, but Eddie ends up making the face comeback, as you know that's going to happen. And as he goes for a backpack stunner, Lee reverses it, and when Lee reverses it, we see Helms interfering in the matchup. Of course, we knew that was going to happen. We knew Helms was going to have some point in that. And as a result of that happening, Lee ends up hitting a jumping knee on Eddie Edwards, but we're fortunate that it only gets a 2 count. And then we see that Eddie ends up coming and reversing Lee's God's Last Gift and hitting a dive onto Helms that's on the outside. So high spot from Eddie. Of course, we can't expect to see anything less from Eddie Edwards to have that high spot going on. But a good matchup as we see it so far. Eddie Edwards gets up the top. He ends up missing the double stomp, but then he ends up hitting the knee strike for the win. 1, 2, 3. Not a long matchup. Very few high spots, but I mean, what can you say? It's TNA, folks. It's TNA. What can you really do? So we get back from the break and we see the Bromans talking about Raquel's Instagrams and stuff, and then they hype up the Big Brother After Dark strategies of using it. And it says they have cameras, that are all around the arena, and they're looking through the entire building. And they said they're going to use this strategy to win the tag titles because they ended up losing in the it was the 4-team tag team fatal 4. I guess called it a fatal 4-way at the pay-per-view. And it says they happen to notice and see Raquel changing. So we'll see they're using those cameras for other reasons as well. As we come back, the entire roster is standing on the stage, and Dixie Carter comes down from the stage and she makes her way to the ring. And right now, she's putting over the TNA Hall of Fame. And they as announced at the pay-per-view, and they're going to announce tonight that Gail Kim is this year's TNA Hall of Fame inductee. And they end up playing a video, showing a video of her and all that she has done in TNA and all that she has, done, the titles between becoming the first TNA Knockouts champion of TNA. She's done quite a bit there, more so than she did in WWE. But she had been in the business for a long time, and she come down and she thanked the fans and the company, and she was blessed to be in the business for a while, over 16 years. That's how long Gail Kim has been in wrestling. So quite a long time for her to be in wrestling now, for 16 years. But she said she was blessed to be in it, thanking the crowd, and she praised everybody that she worked with, and she even hugged Dixie at the end. So that was a real nice little touching thing for her to be in the new class, this year's inductee into the TNA Hall of Fame. So congratulations, Gail Kim, on that. We come back, and then we see the Decay. They end up cutting a promo. They're still the world champions, and it said they talk about how they're going to end up causing destruction, and they're going to retain their titles tonight. Very, very sure of themselves. And they said that, and they're teasing this, they said they feel this new darkness, and that somebody they need to call out to and to talk to the one. So we're kind of, I guess, they're coming in this weird angle in this way, so we're going to see, hopefully find out further along what that really means. We see coming back into the ring, we see Jeremy Borash, which is in the back, and he's interviewing Marty Bell. Remember, Marty Bell was the other member of the Dollhouse, and remember, she costed Jade the TNA Women's Knockout, the TNA Knockout title. And she is, and he tells her, she says, this isn't about the Dollhouse. That, even though, yeah, her and Jade started together and they were going to always be by each other's side, that she said that whenever Jade won the title, Jade changed, and Jade ended up arriving, and then they ended up fighting right there, and they ended up somebody pulling Jade off of her. So I guess this is going to set up our next feud for the TNA Knockouts title, is between Jade and Marty Bell. So beginnings of a feud that will happen up. So we see next up in the Gold Rush, as it continues, we have the TNA Tag Team title matchup. The champions, we have the Decay with Rosemary versus the Tribunal with Al Snow, and versus Shira and Grotto versus the Bromans with Raquel. So we're going to see a great big old matchup here, folks. Hopefully the match is good. When you have this many people, much like I stated with the 10-man tag match we had last week, when you have this much, it's hard to come with a big flow to the matchup when you have this many people. So we see the beginning of the match is starting to turn out flow pretty good, and the more and more that could, because you want to have a good matchup. You want everybody to go back and forth and everybody exchange. Just have a good flow. You don't want dead spots, slow spots. You want it to have a good, even flowed matchup. The Tribunal, basically the heels took over a lot of this matchup, with fighting and things. And we see that they used a lot of quick tags, which is what you're going to see in these tag matchups, is the heels try to use the quick tags and in and out their guys to stay fresh and whatnot, and try to make sure that they can try to get that pinfall if possible. So we see Robbie E. Robbie E's the guy this time that, the one guy that's always in the ring that takes a lot of the punishment and gets beat down the most, and he's the one that's got to fight to get to his corner and get the tag. Well, Robbie, unfortunately, is the guy this time. And, he ends up finally making a quick tag over to Jesse Goddard. And Jesse Goddard ends up clearing out the Tribunal, taking them out. And then Crazy Steve, he took Crazy Steve out. And then Monster Abyss tries to come in, and Jesse hits him with a springboard. And then Crazy Steve comes back, but then he's hit with the Bromans, with the Bro Down. And then Shera comes in and hits Abyss with a clothesline. And then we see Grotto come, and he goes after Crazy Steve. And then even Al Snow gets involved. And after all this melee of everybody getting interfered, because it's a 10-man match, or like it is, everybody's going to get in, everybody's going to hit a spot somewhere, and it basically ends up finally with the Monster Abyss choke slamming Crazy Steve on the Grotto, ended up getting the 1-2-3, and here we have your still reigning TNA Tag Team Champions, Crazy Steve, along with the Monster Abyss of the Decay. So they end up retaining their titles once again in this matchup. Next up, we have Maria. And Maria is talking about Gail Kim, and she's ranting and raving about her. And Bennett, because Bennett was mad. Bennett didn't want to be there. He was so upset over the matchup with EC3 and his loss to EC3. But instead, Maria talks him into going to the ring because she's got something apparently she wants to say. So we'll find out further along what happens and what she's got to say. Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, we see him talking in the back, and he's cutting a promo on Matt. And he tells Matt that he indeed will accept the 6 Sides of Steel matchup. So that's going to happen next week, the 6 Sides of Steel matchup. Jeff now takes the time to let Matt know that he is willing to accept it. So maybe this will be something to do with. We'll see it happen. So now we come back to the ring, and we see the Miracle Mike Bennett comes out with Maria, and he is protesting his loss at Slammiversary to EC3, and he wants it overturned. Well, when that happens, then you have Billy Corgan and Dixie Carter both come out to the ring. Now, as we stated, in a bit of TNA news, is Billy Corgan, as we know, is the front man of Smashing Pumpkins and a creative writer. The company that bought into TNA, Billy Corgan, bought a minority share of TNA. So now he's a minority owner of TNA. So he comes out along with Dixie, and Dixie and Maria and them are going, and all of them are going back and forth with each other about the matchup. Maria is with Dixie, and this is where Maria's really cutting into it, because she tells Dixie, she says that they, which means her and her husband, will not kiss her butt, and that Dixie was there, and she said that Dixie was doing nothing but that those two were doing nothing but wasting her precious wrestling time. She said, "Look, we could be wrestling, but we're here listening to you guys talk and wasting wrestling time that people could actually be wrestling." So Maria says that Dixie is the problem, which we know in reality she really is with TNA, and she says that, and Maria says that she herself could run TNA better than Dixie. So it looks like we're having another, oh boy, another Dixie can't run TNA moment. How many times have we seen that happen? So she says that she and Bennett, her husband Michael Bennett, and Billy Corgan have some great ideas on how they could do TNA. So we automatically see what could happen there. And she said that she should even be in the TNA Hall of Fame. So Maria actually does good on the mic. Actually does cut promos, because you really do love to hate the woman. She's just that way. And then she says that she has done more in wrestling than Dixie has, and then she starts poking. She starts poking Dixie in the chest, which makes Dixie mad at her, and then Dixie ends up slapping her and leaving the ring. So this is the first time we've seen the authority figure, Dixie, actually physically slap Maria. So more on that as it comes. So we'll see what happens. So folks, we see EC3. He comes out to join the announce team at ringside for the world title rematch. We have the champion, Bobby Lashley, the Destroyer, against Drew Galloway for his rematch. And we can see automatically that Bobby Lashley goes right after those ribs that you can see that are taped up on Drew Galloway. And he goes right after those things and exposing them because once you tape them up, you're exposing that your ribs are hurt, and that's just what he does. He goes after those ribs, which is your typical heel move. Which when you're going to try to get a type of advantage on someone, if they have an injured body part, that's what you're going to go after. You're going to try to injure them ribs. You're going to try to injure the arm or the shoulder or the knee or the leg, whatever it may be. That's just old school textbook heel work. Work on that injured body part, and that's just what Bobby Lashley goes after. So we see that Galloway manages to fight back somewhat, and they end up fighting out on the floor. And we see not Lashley, but we see Galloway trying to go after Lashley, but the ribs are really hurting him, so he can't move like he wants to. So we see those injured ribs are really slowing him down as to what he's able to do and at what point and he's able to do those things. So we see that Lashley ends up hitting a side slam on the apron to take control back. And remember, this is the third straight time we've saw someone do something on the outside. We see how much doing things on the outside can shake up and change control of a matchup in a quick instant. It don't take nothing but an instant for something to happen outside to cause the control to be taken by the opponent. So we see that he ends up focusing on Galloway's injuries, on his ribs and stuff, and he's sending him back to the floor. And while he's out there, he's talking smack to EC3 and posing it over Galloway. And then he gets him back in the ring, and Lashley ends up hitting a suplex. And he continues slowly. You can tell he's slowly stalking Drew Galloway as he's hurting, trying to get up, and ends up ripping off the wrapping, as that Galloway has taped spear into a Kimura. But Lashley ends up getting to the ropes and getting the hole broken. So we see Galloway is still a fighter. Even though he's hurt, even though he's injured, that's exactly what happens is he makes sure that he's able to do this. So hopefully we see that Lashley gets to the ropes and gets the hole broken up. So we see Galloway keep digging deep, trying to pull himself up. He's worn down. He's beat down. He's the injured challenger here. He's the injured underdog, trying to come up, trying to face, and then he ends up avoiding a spear, and then he went up on the top and jumped off, and Lashley caught him in a crossface. So it was real cool. And but Galloway ends up countering out of it, and then he hits a pile driver, kind of like Chris Hero's pile driver for a near fall. And we know how those kind of pile drivers Chris Hero hits. And then Galloway ends up hitting the air raid crash off the second rope, and that was for a 2 count. So we see Galloway mounting that offensive and coming back. So then we see that Galloway ends up hitting the Claymore on the ref, and we see that as Lashley avoided the move, and Lashley ends up hitting the spear on Galloway. So now we see the referee down. Only hope what can happen now that the referee is down in this matchup. Lashley ends up hitting another spear and getting in a chair. And EC3 comes in and tries to make the save and take it. And he did. And he starts attacking Lashley. So then they start brawling. And EC3 is sent to the floor. So he grabs a chair. And then he misses Lashley and nails Galloway with it. So, mistake there. Now we're going to see what happens with this now that he accidentally hits Galloway with the chair instead. So, Lashley ends up hitting a spear to EC3. And then he puts an arm choke to Galloway and ends up getting the win from this move. And so we see, it looks like we're going to see EC3 and Lashley set up on a collision course for TNA's Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which will be coming. So something to look forward to in next time. So, but that's basically all that happened in the show. Like I said, it was a long time watching it, trying to get between the commercials and all the technical difficulties that Poptv had experienced in it and all. But it was a decent show. Some low spots, But I think the main event was pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty good show for it. So, just like I said, I just am glad I was able to get it out and get it to you folks today. So, that was the end of the show. We'll look forward to next week. If you like it, please drop a like on this video. You want to subscribe to the video. I've got more content, TNA wrap-up shows. I did the TNA Slammiversary results. You can go check those out if you didn't get a chance to watch the show or the pay-per-view. Go check those out. I got WWE content. If you like that, me and Bullet B do a Team B wrestling show. Doing WWE, we also do a review show. Check that out if you like topics, advice, what's gaming, whatever it is it's on my page. Feel free to subscribe and share to that. But until next time, with another edition of TNA Wrap Up Show, this is Bill Mack, and have a good one.